I recognize the member from Fredericton South, leader of his party.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise at second reading to speak to Bill 55, an act to amend the Education Act brought by my colleague, the member from Memram-Cotentin-Tremor. It was about 3.5 years ago, I think, that this House unanimously supported a bill I had brought to amend the Education Act to ensure that students learn through their school career about both the historic and current relationship with First Nations in New Brunswick. And part of that motivation back then was recognizing the deep racism that exists in our society and how systemic it is, that I was thinking if we could open our children to understand the historical and contemporary experience of Indigenous peoples in our province, going back to things like the residential schools and the racist basis for the Indian Act up to the present, including the treaties, that would help children know each other better and perhaps help bolster them with awareness and information against the kind of prejudice and biases that maybe they were hearing elsewhere outside of school. And so that was unanimously adopted here in the House. And that has been having positive impacts, building again on a number of initiatives that were already going on in the education system, but it wasn't universally being applied through either of our two systems. So that's the case now. And this bill is taking the next logical step to ensure language, the Indigenous languages from the lands that we live on, the Passamaquoddy, the Wolastoqey and Mi'kmaq lands are taught in our school system. Because others have said it, but it's always struck me that the languages of these lands that have been spoken for thousands and thousands of years are not languages that most people have heard, can speak, and certainly can't even say hello, how are you, or thank you, and that's unbelievable when you think about it. It's unbelievable, and it reflects the way Indigenous peoples have been regarded in New Brunswick society for so many years, that while we have done such a great job of ensuring that Acadians and Francophones language is not in any way diminished in this province, but supported and celebrated, we have failed to do that as of yet with respect to the Indigenous languages of this place. So this is a small start in that direction, and hopefully it leads to immersion programs for students who wish to take them throughout the school system and other such initiatives, but also so that every student actually learns a bit of the Indigenous languages of New Brunswick, so that provides them not with the key, but at least with a bit of a window on the culture of the Indigenous peoples in New Brunswick. And language and culture are so interconnected that I think it's so important, because in Indigenous languages there are concepts that don't translate well, but the concepts are often so important to understand about the world we live in and how we relate to each other, that it would only create a great benefit for students in the school system to learn those. And I recall years ago being in a truck stop outside Escanobitich, and the server was serving in Mi'kmaq, in English, and French. And it was a beautiful thing to see that. And we need to see more of that. And with only, what is it, 100 Wolastoqey speakers still remaining, and a couple of thousand Mi'kmaq, but the most endangered, of course, is Wolastoqey. We need to help reverse that and do whatever we can to help reverse that. So, Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to hear the support coming from other members for this bill, the explanation of the amendment that will be brought at committee, which seems perfectly reasonable. So it's my sincere hope that once again this Assembly can rise to the occasion and unanimously adopt the bill through the lawmaking process here to get it to royal assent ultimately. And that would be a positive thing that everyone here can be proud of being part of, Madam Speaker. The times are, we're at a moment in our history where we need to make great strides with respect to tackling systemic racism, anti-Indigenous racism, anti-Black racism, and racism broadly in our society and in our institutions. And the discussions have begun with Indigenous chiefs, and the window or the door remains open. Different accounts, I guess, of how that first meeting went, but certainly the door didn't get slammed. So given the state of the relationship, which is not very good to non-existent, that I see that as a positive thing, I guess. And so there will be another meeting, and hopefully that next meeting will be the launching pad for making real progress and taking real action. And I'm hoping that the Indigenous leaders would be open to the idea of having this House represented in those meetings through the leaders of the three opposition parties, along with the Premier and the key members of Cabinet, so that it truly is an effort of the whole legislative branch of government to engage at this important time in our history. And so I don't think that's I think that's a reasonable thing to aspire to, and I hope that will be accepted in the spirit that it's suggested. So, Madam Speaker, I am, of course, pleased to say I will be supporting this bill at second reading, and also acknowledge the guidance and counsel of David and Imelda Purley that my colleagues and I in the Green Caucus and others have mentioned this.
Time.
I thought I had 20.
15.
15?
Yeah,
oh,
I was.
you gave me extra.
I was not on the clock, so.
Okay, well, I was